welcome back to another episode of Inside Fnatic's Brush. I am still your host, Matt Scott, back with Group Stage this time, um, where we're probably gonna have a short episode for today because, well, two things. The first one being that Fnatic only played one game, so not a lot of games to cover, and there were quite a few 2-0s in there, so it was hard to have much takeaways when there have been very dominant series across the group stage. But just to quickly go back here for those who are still not familiar with the format, um, following the single round robin group stage with best of threes, two groups of four teams, with a two win threshold to get through to the next stage. So if you lose your first series, not the end of the world. You get put into a sort of losers bracket, and you still have two more chances to get onto the next stage. As my camera is going blurry, can it fix itself? It's trying to. 1 2 1 2. Oh, maybe it's needing a bit more light. Let me try that again. There we go. So yeah, we'll jump right into that. Hello, Gemini. Thank you for stopping by. Um, let's get into the LEC part of things. I'm sorry, this is a very compact screen, but you can at least figure out what's happening with the logos. So very quickly, Team Vitality won against Mad Lions 2-0. Astralis 2-1 versus Fnatic. Team BDS 2-0 versus SK Gaming. And Koi 2-1 versus G2 Esports. The finals of each group stages were played on the Monday, resulting in a 2-0 from Vitality against Astralis and a 2-0 from BDS against Koi. So let's start with the beginning. Group A, strongly dominated by Vitality, which is a surprise, yes and no, because it did have a strong drop in form towards the end of the, I guess you call it a regular split. And it felt like the form that they had during the first week kind of dwindled down going into week 2 and week 3, where they actually dropped a few ranks. Bo was doing a bit of end plays. They weren't necessarily playing properly around Upset this time, who again is known for to be a player who needs a lot of resources to then obviously shine a bit later during the game, even though he has usually a very good laning phase. During the team fight, this is really where he pops off. And yeah, very, very hard to know what type of team vitality we're going to have. Now, with that said, in Group A, I think they got away with being in the easiest group out of them all, especially facing first Mad Lions, who I believe ended 8th in the regular season. So we're coming back from a very complicated regular split, which is in stark contrast to the first split where they ended in finals, and now they just barely made it to group stage. So for the first part, I would say it was kind of expected for them to lose against Team Vitality. With that said, they didn't just lose to Vitality; they really got crushed. Um, the big highlight was Perks, in my opinion, who just had a massive return to his old form, where he was one of the best mid laners back then, and he it felt like he kind of lost that throughout the years, where he was good enough, but wasn't as good as he's used to be when he was really at his peak. And we got a glimpse of that during the series in particular. And when everything's working well within Team Vitality, it feels really, really hard to stop them. And you can even see that in their game against Astralis, because you know, even if people say, oh, Astralis obviously isn't as good as Team Vitality, I'd say at least they would have taken one game, in my opinion. Because even if Astralis lost a game against Fnatic, and the three games, in my opinion, were super back and forth. Like at any moment, any team could have won. Super brawly, constant team fights across the three games. Like even the last game of that series could have gone either way. Like Vitality had the early game, then Fnatic came back um, to the later stages of the game, had much better team fight in general, in my opinion, but small mistakes here and there, just you know, just made it a bit more complicated for the team to really close out the series and get the win. So instead, Astralis, who has been looking much better since they introduced Litter, took the series, but I was expecting them to be much stronger against Vital. I was still expecting them to lose, but at least a 2-1. And we had a very impressive LPL level Lee Sin from Bo, who kind of sort of set the level for the series. Say, we're not messing about. This is not regular season anymore. We're here to smack some people up, and Bo turned it up a notch. And I think for anyone who's watched the game, Bo has instilled some fear into people's hearts right now. Man, whenever Fnatic set Razork on tanks, we lose. I don't trust him on Sejuani. Hmm, I don't necessarily think that Razork being on like tanky champions is the main issue. Um, the fact that you don't trust him on Sejuani, like I can understand, because I feel he's too willing to throw his ultimate when he could actually hold it just a bit longer and release at the final moment. But he's a bit like kill on sight. And the moment he sees someone, he feels like he needs to engage and just throw everything. The thing with Sejuani is that you can't necessarily just pile on her stuns, right? You can have her Q, or you either stack her passive into her E, and then you can throw your ultimate. If you throw your ultimate, if I'm not mistaken, there's a cooldown until you can use your passive and trigger it with E. So I I mean, I'm sure he's able to play it, but I feel he's just over eager on his engages, and he just needs to play a bit smarter. Just not go in the moment he sees someone, because then it's probably like, oh, I stunned him, kill, kill, kill. Unless there's like insane burst on the team, it's like the moment you stun the person, he's gone within a second because you just pile on all the damage. But it feels like every time he goes in, his team is like another screen away. Um, and while he still does that with Vi, because he's a much more bruiser champion, he's able to follow up with his own damage. Because Sejuani like doesn't necessarily have crazy damage. Like she has good damage on her second part of her W, and then her E stack when it's executed, when it's triggered. But apart from that, you still need help from someone else, unless I guess you have Iceborne and Sunfire Cape, and maybe like a third item, maybe a thorn mill to get on top of that. But yeah, um, I don't think having tanks is a problem. The biggest problem were, well, if we take the third game, right? The sort of 50-50 against or for the Baron. Now people will say, well, you know, um, he misclicked because Malphite was on the Baron. The problem doesn't lie here, right? The problem lies as to why are we deciding to go for a 50-50? Because 50-50 is just extremely coin flippy in any situation, either even if you're ahead, if you're even, or if you're behind. Like there's no moment where you're like, especially for a game 3, which is the last game, so it's like it's a final chance, and you if you screw it up, then there's no good like, oh well, we tried 50-50, now we won't do it next game. It's like this is it, you know? And so was that really the turning point, that third game where they lost the Baron and then it helped Astralis, gain more map advantage? I don't think necessarily lost us the game, but it just made it so much more complicated for us. And I think that's the main issue. And um, what's his name? Nightshare kind of explained it on the latest Legends in Action, is that it seems that when a team gets a bit too comfortable, there's a bit of ego plays that come in, and we kind of lose some of that composure, of that discipline of playing. Just play properly the game, and don't feel panicked because the game is even and you need to make a play. You need to make something happen. It's try to get a pick, make sure that the jungler can be near. I mean, I don't know. We have done those type of executions before this split, right? I don't understand why it feels like we kind of lost some of the progress that we had this split. Like even the first game, some of the stuff we've done in the early parts in the bot lane, it felt like week one all over. I'm like, we're better than that. What happened? We usually don't fall into these traps anymore. And the fact that the jungler is able to dive us between our first and second turret, how we put ourselves in these positions. So, I'm already talking too much about Fnatic here when there's a segment for it, but I'll come back to it a bit more in detail. But yeah, just to answer these two quick questions, I think where this is where the problem lies, really, in my opinion. But yeah, just to conclude Group A very quickly. First game will be Fnatic versus Mad Lions, and the winner will face Astralis for the final spot to playoffs from Group A. Moving on to Group B. Now, this was meant to be the banger group because you have BDS, SK, G2, and Koi, all who have very strong peaks and are able to play at a great level when the pieces of the puzzle match. BDS versus SK, I think we all predicted 2-0, and that makes sense in my opinion, because BDS, in my opinion, is the top team right now. They just work so well together. I think Crynshot is having his redemption story after being shit talked for so long, because you know he wasn't necessarily on the best teams whatsoever. But BDS really is the team to beat right now. Shio definitely sets himself as top 3, top 2 junglers, and you know, I won't say that I've watched all of his games last season, but I did watch some of his games. While he was very good, there's always this transition when you hit the LEC, and for me, I was more convinced of like Yike being able to transition to the LEC and just play as one of the best rather than Shio. It was a bit the truth for Yike at the beginning, but I feel like the roles are reversed and now Shio kind of holds that crown right now. Do I think there will be changes if we lose to Mad? I guess they replace the jungle. I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, in my opinion, you just finish out the season with your roster because I mean look at Excel, right? Excel made a bazillion changes um, between winter and during spring, and they ended up at the same place. They ended up 10th. I don't think it makes sense to just constantly make like changes when you're gambling on the fact that you're gonna go beyond 9 games, right? You're saying, okay, let's say we don't make it into the next stage. We change Razork, we bring in a jungler. Um, it's how do you make sure the jungler fits well, that he's successful straight away, and that he's not just being a patch between summer and the off season, right? Because right now, like I'll tell you something, we're very lucky that Oscar Nin has finally gotten into the level where he's at. Because imagine if Oscar Nin kept the level he had in week 1 and just kept on, feeding his ass off and never reaching the level he's showcased in the LVP. What happens to him? Do you change top lane again? Like you can't. At one moment you have to build a group, right? And in my opinion, I think that's what Nightshare is doing. And if we don't reach finals, if we lose now, I personally think it's not the end of the world. Now, is there a need to change junglers or what? It's hard to evaluate right now. I The way I see it is that Nightshare is more focused on building a team, building a structure with strong like pillars of training, synergy, creating cohesive group, and see how far he can take it, right? And then if you know if it's not now, if in summer we do reach finals, if we go to the LEC final stage in September, if we manage to make it to Worlds, like how far we can take it. This is what I think Nightshare will evaluate, and then eventually we'll reach the off season, and this is where I think the important changes are gonna happen, because what you need to realize is that because the way the season started, it makes it very, very, very hard to sort of claim any titles this season, right? So I wouldn't say don't keep your hopes up, right? Definitely you should, uh, you know, still hope that we go as far as possible, and if the stars align, we actually do get a title. But I think it's important to see things on the long run and stop wanting to make small changes every time that something doesn't work, you have to change it. This has been Excel's approach. We've seen reports about Excel mismanaging their players, not paying them correctly, stuff like this, forcing them out of their contracts. I don't want Fnatic to be like that. I'd rather we take it on the chin, we take the L. It's like, yeah, okay, we winter sucked, spring is a bit better, but there's still a lot of work to do. Then we come into summer, same team with all the mistakes that have been improved, and a stronger approach to the split, and we build on that. And I think that's a much smarter approach than just, oh, well, Razor's doing some mistake, we need to change him. Maybe we'll change him later. I don't know. I think Nightshare is a better coach to analyze these things and come with a conclusion as to what group does he want at the end, and what group does he want to coach, and what group does he feel comfortable in bringing as far as possible. Because what Nightshare has already brought to the table, I think, is already super encouraging as to what he's capable of bringing to the organization as a whole. And on top of that, now this is just me, you know, making scenarios in my mind, but I also feel the fact that the Valorant team is sharing the same offices, I guess, with the League team also helps with the environment. When you have guys like Boasters who are super positive, and then very, very competitive spirit like, Dirke, Leo Chronicle, even Alpha, who feels like a very, very goofy person. It has to be nice to be within the environment and get to talk to those players. So I think it's a whole. And it's all about making sure the pieces stick together and see, how much you can do with it. So yeah, a bit of a long explanation for your question, but yeah, that's how I envision it. They did not share last play. I mean, yeah, the Valorant guys arrived around end of March, I believe. No, probably beginning of March. Mid March, because I think the first game started end of March. So yeah. Anyways, quickly to finish Group B, Koi beat G2 2-1, which was kind of unexpected. I think everyone had G2 as their favorite, but again, so Koi will have their spark of genius sometimes, and G2 will just completely fumble it. And again, Koi was the better team. It's not a situation of G2 making too many mistakes. It's just Koi just playing super well. And G2 falling into the Malrank trap of ganking. And so BDS Koi, BDS to 0, not surprised. Even with Koi's good showing, Vitality and BDS are the top two teams right now. And we're going to have the finals on Monday, and I think everyone should be watching just so we can gauge really where these teams are right now, respectively. And I still think BDS will have the slight edge over Vitality. We will see. G2 Esports SK as the first game for losers bracket, and the winner will go on to face Koi for the last spot. So it's gonna be some fun games, I think, overall. In my opinion, Group B will probably be closer in general across the last two games than Group A if predictions are right. So we'll see. But Vitality BDS, super scary right now. Moving on to Fnatic. Obviously, we've spoken about it quite a bit already, this podcast, but an unfortunate loss on the first game. Going beyond everything that's been said already, I will say this one thing. I'm a bit disappointed we didn't get to play more games. I think I mentioned it on a previous episode, but beyond the fact that had we won against Astralis and lost against Vitality, we would have only one game to win to get to the next stage. it would have given us more games to play and less games to prepare for the next week. Um, mm, I really don't want to bash the team because the okay, my problem is that I set so much expectations that even though there's so much improvement that you have to acknowledge for this team, compared to winter, I I still strongly believe that we were getting stronger every week. And what kind of scared me, already within the first game, is that I felt like I was seeing mistakes from week one, and that just puts me into a very bad mindset as to how the rest of the series would go. Because if you're falling back into our old mistakes, then it's like you're taking one step forward and two step backs, and that's as you're going forward into the competition, you have to show a higher level every time. You have to show that you've gone beyond those standard mistakes that you were making at the beginning of the split. And while obviously in the best of three, you have more chances to sort of erase the game, go into the next one, and correct some of the plays. Um, Game two was obviously much better, overall. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, the picks were better. We didn't have what's the name? We didn't have Razork on Maokai." It's like, again, you have to watch the games beyond the the drafts, right? Because it's not because there's how do you call it? It's not because there's a good or bad draft that it automatically means, well, they're losing. Like they're losing the game straight away, or they're winning the game by default. Like, how many games? Like, I don't know how long you guys have been watching, uh, you know, competitive League of Legends, but how many times have teams with a bad draft won against a team that had a better draft? So what it was for the second game in particular is just better map control, better team fights in general. Like, how many times did Humanoid manage to catch off Leader while he was coming back from a roam or everything? Like, much more awareness around the map. And then what does that translate to? Better neutral objective control. So we were getting the Drakes. We got into which one is it? Was it Chemtank Soul Point within 25 minutes? So we were already like 10k ahead within that time. And it's not just, oh well, we tweaked one or two how do you call it, one or two things on their drafts and that was it. It's like, no, it's we play better in the map, we catch them when they're doing their rotations, we we use our advantages at the right time, and that was it. What happens when you look at the third game? Well, it's much messier overall. Is we take bad team fights, we get caught in places we shouldn't be. Um, we again over eagerness of engaging, and that's the thing. It's like we have so many engage tools that because it feels like we have a bit of a crazy team at the moment. Is that, well, we just go in, and what happens when you throw everything and you don't get a kill? Well, you give the opponent a chance to answer back, and that was the issue. Is that you had Reckless who got a triple kill, and you know it's like, okay, well, you have to play around him now. He's the one who's ahead. He's the one who's going to deal damage, and he was never given the space to really execute afterwards. then if you add on top of that the fact that we decide to completely throw it at Baron and just 50-50 it for no apparent reason, then what the hell? You know, it's just so many question mark situations of a team that's meant to play much smarter in general. So, uh, I mean, yeah, I'm trying. I mean, if you listen to me, you're like, wow, this guy's just like super critical about the team. It's like, yes and no. It's like, again, I recognize how much they've improved, but man, for me, this game was really a test of how far they were in their improvement, and I feel like it stagnated. And because of that, I'm not too sure, like, if this weekend we're actually gonna show something different. You know, how much improvement are we actually gonna have going into this weekend? Like I've no trouble seeing us beat Mad Lions, 2-0, because Mad Lions is just really, really bad. And I think we're a better team than Mad Lions. But the way it feels is that, we faced Astralis on the last game of the regular split. And it's like, oh, we lost against them. But next time it'll be better. And then we lose 1-2. And it's like, oh, we lost this time. But next time we'll be better. It's like full on copium. It's like, no, next time we're gonna beat them. Next time we're gonna beat them. Next time we're gonna beat them. And it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell if this time's the right time. It was one game there. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like last time we lost, it sucks. But this time we're gonna win. Oh well, we lost the best of 3. Well, next time it's gonna work out. It's like, yeah, I still think it's 50-50. But again, I feel like I'm just rambling the same argument, but I really wish that we were more in a 60-40, 75-25 level right now. And I mean, it's clear that the ceiling of this team is still higher, but it's sad to see that we're making some very stupid mistake that are costing us the series. Yeah, I mean, it was a close series, but in my opinion, it could have been a very one-directional series if it weren't for like those stupid mistakes that just kind of pile up and accumulate into a loss. So I feel like it's very much like a mindset situation for the team. It's how like yeah, I mean it's like the Baron getting caught, over aggressing. Like at some moments you see some genius moments, and some other ones you're like, what the hell just went through their brains at that particular moment. So yeah, I'm not too sure. Kobe is better than Hans Sama, but less overhyped. Uh, um, damn, that's quite a take. Um, hmm. I don't know if it's necessarily the case, but I feel like for the split, Kobe has been more consistent overall than Hans Sama. Hans Sama feels like he has his very high highs when he has his Draven, and otherwise he's like a good ADC. When he's got Draven, it's like, yep, best ADC we have in Europe, even better than Upset. When he has other ADCs. He's still good, but there's like this gap when he's playing Draven, and Draven was banned when they faced Koi, and I'm not too sure how much that impacts Jisoo. I want to believe that it doesn't impact them that much because they're a smart team. Like they have good players and they have good staff. And for me, it would be very weird that oh no, they banned Draven, or our whole like drafts and plan just collapse in front of us. Like surely there's more to it than you know. Oh, we get we insta lock Draven for Hansama, and that's our game. You know. But yeah, I think Kobe's versatility across champions is much stronger than Hansama. I'll I'll, I'll say that much. Um, but yeah, I don't know what else to add about Fnatic really. Um, really hoping for like a much stronger showing. Um, not only against Mad Lions. For me, like the Mad Lion games has to be a 2-0, and it has to be a convincing 2-0. And in Astralis, if it goes 2-1, that's absolutely fine with me. But I really need to see Fnatic step it up just one bit. Even if we don't win the split, like I really don't care. But I feel like at this stage, we already have to be at a certain level of performance for the team. If we make top four, I'm super happy with that. If we lose against Astralis, I'll be very disappointed. I won't have any doubts as to coming into summer much stronger, but I feel we would fall super short if we don't take that opportunity to be Astralis and kind of make a statement, not only to other teams but also for ourselves to say, "Yo, we have a good team and there's a lot of capacity within that team." You know. So yeah, I'm trying to think if I wanted to add anything else, but no. Close games. It's just so dumb to lose. It's just so dumb to lose. Like even if we got smashed 2-0 against Vitality, I wouldn't really even care. Because then it just gives us an advantage going into the second week and prepare much better for whoever we're facing, right? But, you know, Fnatic, loser bracket, gauntlet. We've been there before. We've done the impossible. We've run it through, so why not again this time? Why not again this time? So we'll see. We'll see. I'm still staying very positive. I believe that they're they know the mistakes. They're professional players. They know what the fuck they did wrong. Now it's about acting upon it and showing everyone, not only for themselves but also to the fans, that they're able to go beyond uh, these these very standard mistakes and avoid them as much as possible. So yeah, you guys, let me know what you think. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to leave a comment below or on the Twitter as well. There's the handle bottom left, bottom right. Yeah. Anywho, let's actually move on to the predictions. Oh, I forgot to update the scores from last time. I'll do that on the next episode. That's fine. Um, well, it seems that wait, 2-0? No, 2-1. I meant 2-0. Did you guys put 2-1? Did I forget to change the scores? Let me check the polls. Oh yeah, so I don't know how it happened, but it's at least the second or third time that despite almost hundreds of you voting on the polls, we're still getting a draw on the final results. Even with a poll with 4 possibilities, so you'd think, yeah, it's a bit spread, a bit, you know, a bit wider across the different options. You guys managed to vote equally at 48.1%. Fnatic wins 2-1 and Fnatic wins 2-0 against Mad Lions. So when that happens, I have to flip a coin and decide for you guys. So because of that, you get 2-1. So you guys need to get together and decide your picks more cleverly, because if they 2-0, you're missing out on 2 points. But yeah, Fnatic, Astralis, because that has been your pick. 2-1. I mean, again, I've repeated myself over and over. Beyond the fact that I want this to be the result, I feel like it needs to be the result. You know, this team is capable of doing this. So let's do it. Group B, G2 versus SK. I mean, we kind of have the same predictions. I feel like it's a reflection of what happened last week. I feel like G2 is gonna slam SK 2-0. You think it's gonna be closer to 1? I just think G2 is gonna come much stronger into next week, and we'll be able to beat Koi 2-1 across the board. We both agree on that one. So this is not Group B. This is like the sort of first game of playoff stage. But I've added it there because I wasn't going to do a third slide. So I'm just putting it there for the sake of it. Vitality, BDS. The first best of 5 that will take place on Monday, I believe. Both, I believe BDS is going to win. I'm giving it a 3-1. 3-2 for you guys. Very close scores. We all agree on the outcomes in general, so that's fine, I guess. But I'll make sure to update the scores for next week's episode. Have I missed anything? I feel like I've done this super fast. I mean, I did say it was gonna be a short stream, but yeah, guys, again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the people who followed during the episode. Appreciate your support. Make sure to also follow all the other stuff if you want to rewatch on YouTube, or if you're subscribed to Spotify. I am, in fact, on Spotify, and you can hear the episodes on there. Back to I can't remember when. It goes back quite a bit, so if you want to compare what I was predicting and then call me out and say, Matt Scott, you said this on one episode and this is happening, you're absolutely full of shit, well, feel free to do so. And also follow on the different Twitter accounts. Guys, this weekend, Fnatic needs to win it. That's all I'll say. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for chatting. I'll see you next week. Until then, always Fnatic.